Everybody, and welcome to today's Daily Distinction. I am glad you are here. Oh, let me get this out of the frame. There we go. What's going on? Running into the studio last minute today because I was on a Zoom call, a Zoom conference that was going on. So jumping in. Hey, there's Kevin Ferdy. Good to see you, my friend from Indy. Man, how you doing? Dan LeClaire. But you got all these folks watching on Instagram here. The challenge with Instagram is that you see the green behind me on the green screen where they don't on YouTube and Facebook and Twitter. But I'm really glad that you're here. Thanks, everybody, for joining in. Man, got a bunch of folks hopping on today. July 1 is the day. We're starting the new month. Can you believe we're halfway done with 2020? Wild Wednesday. Yes, I love that, Dwayne. That is so cool. Hey, Michelle, good to see you. Yes, happy Wednesday to you, too. I appreciate you being here so much. Thank you. It's crazy to think that the year is half over. It's been a challenging year for many of us, and it's just amazing to think that the year is halfway over. It seems like it wasn't that long ago that we were, it was New Year's Eve, and we were celebrating the new year and wondering what this 2020 was going to be. There were so many conventions and conferences that were being planned. It was 2020 vision. What's our outlook going to be for the future? And then all of a sudden, it's just all crazy. So it's a challenging time. It's a challenging time for many of us. And we're going to talk about what we can do to hopefully make the rest of the year better than the first half of the year. Maybe you did have a good first half of the year. For many of us, it saw a significant sea change in our businesses. It saw Kevin that's watching now is in real estate, and Charles out in California is in real estate. And it's just crazy. It's just to think of how much things have changed in such a relatively short period of time. It is really just amazing when we look back on it. Hey, Curtis, great to see you. It's good to see you as you're out and about today. Scott, yeah, it is very hard to believe. Year's half over. And so what can we do to make the second half of the year better than the first half? That's what we're going to be talking about today. As folks are coming on, I'll just give you a couple of reminders. And first off is the thank you for sharing this. I really, really appreciate it. I noticed we had some shares on LinkedIn from the replay, which I'm very appreciative of. So thank you so much for that. Thank you if you're watching for sharing, no matter where it is that you're sharing from. I really appreciate you taking time to do that. Also, the reminder, I put it over my shoulder here. Haven't done that for a while, but the free resources that are available to you on Distinction Nation. It's distinctionnation.com. Please go there because some of the things that are on there, like the 14-day audio program, we're going to be removing from that and moving behind a paywall in the near future. So don't have the exact date on that for you, but want you to know that for the viewers of Daily Distinction, it is absolutely free right now, but it won't be for much longer. So if you'd like that 14-day program on what does it take to create personal distinction, all you need to do is to go to distinctionnation.com, as you see right there on the screen. And we'd love to have you there. You can download all types of free resources. Also, the Save the Date. I'll remind you again, I'll tell you when the website goes live, but the Save the Date for the Ultimate Business Summit, it's August 13th and 14th. We are so excited about it this year, and I really hope that you will join us for that. Join our Facebook page. Just search for Daily Distinction. You can sign up there. So glad that you're here. Hey, Charles, don't know if you heard. I was just talking about you. I got a friend watching on Instagram. Kevin formerly was a WWE superstar, and he is in real estate now in Indianapolis, and he's just fantastic. And there you are. You're out in Hillsborough. You're making the Oregon swing. So great to see you, and glad that you're here as always, Charles. You are always appreciated. I appreciate you being here. So 2020 halfway done. What do we do to make the second half of the year better than the first half of the year? Some folks say just breathe and it'll be, it'll be better than the first half was, right? I mean, it's just what a crazy year. Who could have anticipated all of the things that have happened this year? And it's not over yet. I mean, we still have a presidential election to go this year, right? We still have all kinds of crazy stuff to go this year. What's going to happen with the NBA? What's going to happen with the National Football League season? What's going to happen with so many things? Hey, Mitch Joel watching on Instagram. Good to see you. Thanks for your email this morning. I will look forward to getting back with you. Bill on Instagram says one of the things we need to do to make 2020 better is to defund Zoom meetings. I love that. I am signing that petition, Bill. I love that. So, I mean, man, we still got more craziness coming up this year. Can you imagine? I mean, I can't even imagine what presidential elections are always wild. I can't even imagine what it's going to be like this time around. And hey, Brian, yeah, absolutely, pal. I totally get it. I've been having some internet trouble here as well, so I totally understand. And I'm going to be joining Brian on his podcast and what he does, which is brought with his sponsor Restream.io. So I'm really looking forward to it, Brian. Thanks. And Brian's been my guest here on the show, if you've seen. Hey, Michelle says currently in New Jersey, but we also have a house in Vegas that we're permanently moved to in October. Wow. And we're doing any live events the second half of the year. Michelle, that would be great. But the problem is we don't know. I mean, the Ultimate Business Summit, and this is an example of how things have gone crazy. The Ultimate Business Summit is something that we've always done live, right? I mean, the first 3 years it was Green Valley Ranch, and then our folks said, "Oh man, we're traveling from all over the place. We'd love to have it on the Strip," so we moved it to the Luxor Hotel. And the funny thing is, when you live in Vegas, the Luxor people don't. It's not one of those properties that people get really excited. Man, I'll tell you what, the food was extraordinary at the event. The meeting room was fantastic. We really had a great experience at the Luxor. So we were all prepared to go back there, and then the pandemic hits, and now we have to take the event virtual because one of the things is they couldn't even promise us what hotel we'd be in. Well, how in the world do we go to you folks and say, "Hey, you want to come to our event? We don't know where it's going to be." But buy a ticket to Vegas, and I don't know where you ought to get a live event at Hank's for half price martinis. Hank's is the steakhouse that we love at Green Valley Ranch. See that? There you go. That'd be a heck of a live event. Danny, I hadn't heard that talk of the Luxor being torn down. Did not know that. It's so dated on the inside, but man, they did a fabulous job for our event. So we were, everybody's looking forward to it. And we had folks travel for the event from Australia. We had folks travel from the United Kingdom. And, how in the world they couldn't even come, right? Because the travel shut down. So we moved the event to be a virtual event. So just in answer to your question, man, I hope that I have a chance to do that, and we'll see what happens. I'll keep you posted here. Ken, I doggone it. When I was planning the notes and everything for the show, I even made a note. I needed to say that straight out of the box, and I got going and absolutely forgot it. So happy Canada Day. Got so many friends in Canada, you being one of them. Got so many friends in Canada. So for all of my Mitch Joel on Instagram. So happy Canada Day to all my Canadian friends. What a great day. Yes, this seems like the novel by Stephen King, directed by Quentin Tarantino. What a year. Oh man. Luxor gives me the Vegas feels when I stay there, but when I visit there and don't spend the night, I love the Luxor Vegas. But yeah, Brian, it's funny to say that to me, old Vegas is downtown, right? It's the golden nugget. It's all of that. And then the Strip obviously is what you kind of feel like newer Vegas. But the Luxor kind of has an older Strip kind of feel to it, doesn't it? I mean, it's something else. Mandalay Bay is reopening, I think, tomorrow, right? I think that's right, Danny. Mandalay Bay and Aria are reopening tomorrow, and that was part of the deal. Is they didn't know what hotels were going to be open, and so that was part of the reason that we moved. But it's crazy here. And the other thing is what happens. Have you heard? I don't mean to get off track and on this too much, but have you heard? I mean, there's some debate now that this really isn't a second phase as we see these numbers go up. This is the result of not flattening the curve enough on the first phase. So we haven't even gotten to a second phase yet. And it's just, there you go, Danny. I mean, it's such a fluid situation. You were so right. It's just changing by the day. So that gets us back to the central question of the day. How do you make the second half of the year better than the first, especially when so much is fluid, when so much is changing by the day, by the minute, by the hour? What do we do? And I got a suggestion for you, and I'm going to take you back a few years. Do you remember the movie City Slickers? Remember the movie? Jack Palance, in fact, won the Academy Award for Best Supporting Actor for his role as Curly in the movie City Slickers. These three guys from New York, right? Billy Crystal and Daniel Stern and Bruno Kirby. And they go to a dude ranch to get a bigger life out because their life isn't what they want it to be. So they go to this dude ranch. They meet this gruff old trail boss Curly. And it's a great buddy picture. It's an old movie, but if you haven't seen it, it's really, really terrific. And there's this great scene. I mean, it is the classic scene of the movie where Jack Palance, in his Oscar-winning role, says to Billy Crystal, they're talking about what is life all about. Here's this guy that, he's a cowboy. He's, for these New Yorkers, he seems like he has such a different life, and the life that they. And Curly says to Billy Crystal, the secret of life is it's about one thing. And Billy Crystal says, what's the one thing? And Jack Palance says, that's for you to figure out. And that's it. I mean, I know that sounds so anticlimactic, but life's about one thing. And what's the one thing? Well, that's for you to figure out. But what's the one thing for you for the rest of the year? See, I think part of what happens is we enter a year. I know I certainly did. I entered 2020, and man, we got all these speeches on the books and a new book coming out. We're going to do this. We're going to do that. And so many things that are in the process. And then all of this hits, and it's like the rug's pulled out from under you. And it's really got me thinking that it's about the one thing. It's about the one thing. So what's the one thing? Well, that's what you've got to figure out, right? That's for you to decide. Charles says he remembers some of the one-arm push-ups. If you don't know what that means, when Jack Palance won the Oscar, he gets the Oscar and he said, thank you for this, but many of you here think I'm too old to be in your movies. And literally on the stage of the Oscars, he gets down, he puts one hand behind his back, and he does one-armed push-ups on the stage while the crowd goes crazy. And that was his Oscar acceptance speech, is doing one-armed push-ups on the stage of the Academy Awards. But it was for that role where he talked about the one thing. So what I want to encourage you to do really is to simplify. What is the one thing that's going to be your thing for the rest of the year? What will be your central focus for the rest of the year? That's for you to decide, obviously. But what we're going to do on Daily Distinction is to try to encourage you to do it and to be here to help and to be here to give you some concepts. I'll tell you what my one thing is going to be. My one thing is moving to a virtual platform. Moving from working on the stages of others the companies that hire me to speak to owning my own stage. In other words, that we'll do more events like the Ultimate Business Summit, only I'm going to do a Distinction Summit coming up in October. We've got all these plans about what we're going to do and how we're going to create this. But we're going to create mastermind groups and courses so that we can help people create distinction for themselves and for entrepreneurs. Here's the other reason it's really important to me, and it's my one thing, right? And I want to know what your one thing is, but here's why. You've maybe heard me tell the story about my folks owning the grocery store in Crothersville, Indiana, right? My mom and dad, man, they put their heart and soul into that little grocery store at Crothersville. And they were successful with it. But I wonder how much more successful they could have been had there been access for small business to the information that the big companies were providing their managers and their teams. In other words, if you work for Apple, if you work for Volkswagen, I mean, the company provides you with all of these resources about how to sell better and more, how to serve customers, they don't do enough in terms of how do you stand out, but that's why they hire me, right? But where does a small business go to get that? Where does a solopreneur or an entrepreneur of a small business, where do you go to get that? And I think about my mom and dad, and I think about how much better off they would have been if they could have had some of those strategies as they were running their business. And I think about how many other moms and dads are out there that are running small businesses, everything from an auto body shop. One of the financial advisors. Why would you pick one financial advisor over another? And what would happen if you could help financial advisors be more successful? It would mean they would serve their clients better, and that their clients would get better financial advice and retire better. So just the ripple effect of that. And so we're going to create a program that teaches how to stand out so you can earn more. Now, earn more doesn't just mean money. Earn more respect, earn more customers, earn more loyalty from employees. There's many ways that you earn, but you only get that when you stand out. So that is the big project for the second half of 2020. And I hope you'll join me on that, because it's very exciting. But I hope that I'm saying that not to, that's not a pitch. I just want you to know what I'm talking about today is also what I'm trying to do in my business. And that's part of why I'm encouraging it in yours is it's walking the talk. It's trying to get you to think about how you can do this for yourself as well. Danny, you're building your business as best as you can. That's absolutely. And Michelle, one thing, workshops online via Zoom starting tomorrow. See, there you go. That's what this is all about. Bruce, some owners of small business don't even have the basics. Yeah, you're so right. And see, there you go, Bruce. One of the things that I've found is that business owners know what they do, but they don't know how to make what they do stand out, or they don't know how to exactly what you're talking about. And that's one of the programs that I would have is that we're preparing is, how do you learn the basics of those things? We tend to think of smaller entrepreneurs, but it's very high level professionals as well. You can graduate from medical school. You can get your undergraduate degree. Then you go to medical school and you can do your internship and your residency. You can work on your specialty. You can become a surgeon, set up your own, let's say, cosmetic surgery office, and have never taken a course on how to make that office work. You don't know how to market your practice. You don't know how to manage your finances. You don't know how to stand out from other surgeons in your community. But everybody assumes that you're great because you've got this degree. Financial professionals, real estate professionals. Hey, Charles, well, you're number one. All right, we got you. So what I really want to be able to do is to create, and the other thing is, part of where I'm so excited with this is you can create mastermind groups where you have all these different disciplines. So see, I think sometimes if the group is just from one area, everybody has the same blinders on. But if it gets back to what I talked about really Amazon was just taking what Enterprise Rental Car did and put it to books. That's how I got started, right? We'll bring the car to you. Great. We'll bring the book to you. You don't have to go to the car rental place. You don't have to go to the bookstore. What, and so you might hear something from somebody running a video production service or an auto body shop that works for what you do. Jerry, you work with them all the time. Many business owners or technicians, they're great at but they've never learned about business. Yeah. And they have these dreams, but they don't know how to make the dream reality. Right? It's finding those gaps. So whatever your one thing is for the rest of the year, I think it's absolutely critical that you identify it. I mean, you can't just be floating around thinking about what the one thing is. You've got to identify that one thing for the rest of the year. And that gets back to something we've talked about earlier, which is, remember, it's got to be specific. It's got to be realistic, and it's got to be written. Those are the steps that you have to take to get you where you want to be for this. So precisely, what's the one thing? Now, look, could my one thing be that I want to get? I was just talking with the folks that are doing the production for Tony Robbins' upcoming program, and it's still, I think, a couple weeks off, and they already have 16,000 people signed up for it. Now, could I say I'd like to get 16,000 people signed up for my virtual event? I could say that. That's specific. Is it realistic? I ain't Tony Robbins, right? Now, could that be something that 5 years from now could happen? Yeah, if I had 1,000 people, and they went out and everybody got somebody and they came back and it's 3,000 the next year and they went, in 5 to 7 years, that could be. So don't burden your realistic goal with an unrealistic time frame, right? But is it realistic to have a program that? Yeah, absolutely. So make sure that what you're saying is realistic. You don't want to be discouraged by an unrealistic goal, but then you got to write it down. Make a contract with yourself of what you're going to do. Write it down. Darcy, one of the conferences in which I'm presenting a session just went virtual. So my one thing, there you go. And see, Darcy, by doing that one thing, it not only knocks it out of the park for you for that particular conference, but it's something that you'll continue to be involved with and something you can continue to leverage on and on and on. So that one action, the ripple effect of that one action is really going to be important, is really going to be exceptional. Yeah, Jerry, it's what it keeps us in business, doesn't it? But the more that we help, the better our businesses are. The more that we help and the more that we can give good advice and can advise, the better it is. So as we talk about this, it's the power of purpose. It's the power that happens when you have a purpose. I see so many people that have these ideas or wishes or hopes or dreams. And there is such a gap between what they dream about and what they actually live. Now, look, my dreams are bigger than my reality. I hope they always are. That's part of how you stay excited and motivated. However, when we make progress towards that purpose, when we make progress towards that one thing, we can make some pretty good things happen. I get a newsletter every day from the editor of Fortune magazine. And today he was talking about the power of purpose. He had some quotes from some CEOs that I thought were really interesting. Let me share it with you. Where employees have a sense of purpose, they are 4 times more engaged, which means more productivity, which means less attrition, which means they are bringing to work creativity and thinking out of the box. That's from the CEO of McKinsey Consulting, Bruce Simpson. That's worth repeating. As leaders, part of what we need to do with our teams is to make certain that they have a sense of purpose, right? Because what happens when they do? They're 4 times more engaged, which means they're more productive. They don't quit. They stay with us, and they bring creativity to work. Here's another quote that I thought was pretty cool. When the stuff hits the fan, whether it's COVID or social injustice, we look to our purpose to figure out what to do. Now, he doesn't mention it here, but notice what happens if you don't have that purpose. When it hits the fan, you look to your purpose. If it's not there, you're lost. And I think we're seeing a lot of that in the world today. But he follows up and he says, our purpose is to create world-changing technologies that enrich the lives of every person on earth. That simple line helped us define fairly quickly what we want to do. That's Bob Swan, who's now the CEO of Intel, followed Andy Grove, that wrote Only the Paranoid Survive, that some of you may have read. Look back on what Intel says. Our purpose is to create world-changing technologies that enrich the lives of every person on earth. Now, one of the things that I talk about in the book Create Distinction and the book Iconic is that the first step is clarity. And it's got to be something that everybody can hang their hat on. So notice a little bit about this purpose statement, because when you unpack that, it's a little deeper than what you might think. Because for one thing, world-changing technologies. So think about what that means. It means that we think globally, not regionally. We're not looking to change a device that works here, but something that works all over the world. And what do those devices do? It's got to be to enrich lives. So therefore, what we got to make sure of is our technology is used to enrich and not to separate. But it also, because we're also saying of every person on earth, which means we got to focus on technology that's usable by the masses, not exclusive to the few. Now, whether or not they execute on that is a matter of debate, perhaps, but it becomes the defining thing that you could go back to. So let's say you're in research and development. You're trying to decide what the next product is you're going to work on. Do you work on something very limited, or do you work on something that has a wider scope? Of course, a wider scope. What's your purpose? To enrich the lives of every person on earth. So your defined purpose becomes that one thing, becomes something you constantly go back to. But yet I see so many that, like put it up on the wall and nobody pays any attention to it. And the reason it's got to be one line is so that you remember it constantly. I walk in so many businesses and here's our 10 things, well, and nobody refers to it. It looks really nice on the wall. And it seemed like a really nice thing to do, but it's not something that people actively use as an anchor for everything they do. Yeah, Mike, it is. You make an excellent point. It's impactful, but it's also daunting. But yet, if you can't stretch a little bit, then maybe the purpose is too small. Right? I mean, it's like when we talk about goal setting, goals should scare us just a little bit. Right? If the goal is too comfortable, then it's really not worthy of being a goal. And if it's the purpose, it's the one thing. And that one thing isn't something we already have. It's something we aspire to. So it needs to be a little daunting. Lisa, it's so good to see you. I hope you're doing great. This year would be determining what goes virtual and what should not. That is a question. Yeah, exactly. And I know with the convention in Indiana, you had to make the decision to go virtual, and the national convention is going virtual. It's and how that changes the future is going to be interesting. We're preparing a course on post-pandemic events, and one of the things that I'm suggesting there is that meetings are never going to be the same. We're going to see a lot more of what I call the hybrid meeting, and the hybrid meeting is kind of like, think about if you watch any of the late night talk shows, they have an audience there, an audience of. We went to see the Letterman show, and when Letterman was still on, and you go in the Ed Sullivan Theater, and there's a couple hundred people there. See a couple hundred people, but 1 million people were watching at home. that's kind of what we're going to see with meetings in the future. I think is we're going to see those hybrid events where there's, the local audience is there, but then it's live streamed to this large audience that watches from their areas. And what that means to the airlines is going to be fascinating. What it means to convention centers and hotels going to be absolutely fascinating. But why would you want to get on a plane if you can set it at home and watch it and have the feel? But we need that feel. We need that live audience. We need that. But this is never going away. Hey, my friend Ken, how you doing? Ken, you're so right. Too many mission statements on the wall. There are two guys on a fishing. Exactly. Couple guys, casting their lines, drinking beer, and they said, "Hey, this sounds good. Let's somebody write this down. We need to put this on the wall." And then they never refer to it, and the employees don't. You were exactly right. So that's what I want you to consider, and what I want you to think about is the power of purpose. And as we approach the second half of the year, what is the one thing that would bring purpose and meaning even as the world is going crazy? My challenge to myself, as well as to you, is to get out there and do something, one thing distinctive in the second half of 2020. Hey, this is always my favorite 30 minutes of the day. Thank you so much for sharing. Thank you so much for being a part of this every day. I can't, words don't express the gratitude that I have for the opportunity to share with you folks every day. Thank you for being here. And I'll catch you tomorrow at the same time on tomorrow's Daily Distinction. See you later.